Hi all, good morning, good evening. Welcome to day one of our exclusive training provided by Isha Training Solutions, Datadog, the APM and observability masterclass, right? So we are going to learn about Datadog, how we are going to do the observability and the application performance monitoring with the help of the Datadog tool. So yesterday we had our demo session, guys, in which we went through the list of the topics which we are going to cover as part of this training, and then we also have started with the basics of monitoring and observability. As I had told you yesterday also, each and every session is going to be recorded, so you will be having the lifetime access to the videos as well as whatever documents I demonstrate. Those will be shared with you. In addition to that, there will be additional documents shared, and the sessions will be completely hands-on, guys, right? So once we start the looking into the tool. So before I start for the day, anyone has any queries from yesterday's session? So I'll take it as a no. So we'll continue for today, guys. So let me start sharing my screen. My screen is visible to all of you. Can anyone confirm?
Yes, it's visual.
Thank you. So guys, yesterday we had discussed about monitoring, right? And we had discussed about observability. So I had sent one question, right? Observability is a subset of monitoring, which is not true. Yes or no? It is not true. And similarly, the three pillars of observability are metrics, logs, and traces, guys. Okay. So we'll move on to the next one, guys. Let's see the difference between monitoring and observability. In monitoring, right? In monitoring, our focus is on known issues, guys. Whatever issues you get, right, during the monitoring of the application, right? You would have configured the alerts, let's say, for example, right? You got a problem in the application. So you know that issue, right? You know that issue. So in case of monitoring, your focus is on the known issues. But in case of observability, our focus is primarily on unknown issues, right? Means you get a problem, but you are trying to find the root cause. You're trying to find the root cause. You do not get the root cause upfront, right? You have to find out the root cause. What is the root cause of the problem? So I do not know the cause, right? So I'm trying to find it out. So it is unknown to me. In case of monitoring, what you do? You will simply get the issue. So I'll request everyone to go on mute, please. So in monitoring, you will get the issue. You simply report it to the concerned team. You are not going to do any debugging from your side. You are not going to find out or try to find out any root cause from your side. Clear, everyone? But in case of observability, we try to find out the unknown issues. In monitoring, what kind of data do you see or what kind of data do you analyze, guys? It is primarily metrics and alerts. Okay. In case of monitoring, the data which we look into is primarily metrics and alerts. But in case of observability, these are again the three pillars, guys, right? In case of observability, we look into metrics, we look into logs, and we look into traces. Clear, everyone? We look into metrics, we look into logs, we look into traces. Now, metrics can be different metrics, right? Like it could be the application metrics, it could be your server metrics. We'll see that, okay? So like for example, guys, response time or throughput, that is a metric, right? Similarly, logs will be generated by your application. Logs are basically human readable, right? You will as human beings, as users from the different teams, You will go into the logs to find out if there is anything documented in the application so that you can get the issue, right? So you will basically analyze the logs. You will go through the logs. But for logs to generate, your application should have the capability to generate the logs, right? The development team should have developed the logs properly. Otherwise, if no logs, then how will you analyze the logs, right? So logging capability should be available in the application. They should be, implemented by the development team. And then, guys, we have traces. We have traces. So what is traces? Basically, when any request, right? Any request is going to the server, it will go through the different components of the application in order to do its operation, right? So any request you take, it will have a unique ID. Using that ID, I will be able to find out where through, which all components it has gone through, how much time it has spent in each of those components. Those all things are basically known as traces, guys. Okay, traces. So traces is very, very helpful. Traces is very, very helpful because using the traces, you will be able to identify the relationship between the different components of the application when a request is getting processed by the server. Okay, what all application components are being involved when that request is served by the server. So using traces, you will be able to do it uniquely, guys. Now, the approach for monitoring is reactive. The approach for monitoring is reactive. But in case of your observability, guys, your approach is proactive and diagnostic. Now, let me tell you. When you go for any blood tests, guys, you will get a report, right? About whatever blood test you went for, you get a report, you get the numbers. They are metrics, yes or no? They are the metrics. A pathologist, right? A pathologist who took your sample to test, they will simply provide you the metrics, guys. Will the pathologist tell you that, what could be the major problem in your, blood test, or what is the reason for that? What should you do to avoid that? Yes, in India, the pathologists, the pharmacists, they try to, advise, but that is not as per the profession. That is actually not acceptable as per the profession. Yes or no, guys? So, in order to get a proper diagnosis, in order to get proper medical advice, what do you need to do? You need to visit a doctor. The doctor will be able to tell you the solution, or will be able to suggest you the correct medicines, right? So, guys, by looking into those metrics or by looking into those blood tests, also your doctor could also know, what could be the root cause for that problem, or which all organs in the body might be affected or will get affected in the future, all those things. Similarly, here is the case, guys. Let's say you have configured some alert, right? If my CPU utilization reaches 90%, I'll get an alert from the system. So let's say the CPU utilization of your server reached 90%, guys. Okay, 90%. So what will happen? You will get an alert that your CPU utilization got to 90%. So that is a metric. That is a metric, guys. After you got that alert, or whoever is your monitoring team, right? Whoever is your support team, after they got that alert, they will report it to the respective team, and they can basically look into that. What is the problem? But you do not go further, guys. You do not go further. You do not try to investigate what happened because of which the CPU utilization became 90%. Are you getting me? Or because of that, if any other systems are impacted, because of that, whether the experience has deteriorated, whether the performance has deteriorated, you're not going and investigating them. Yeah. But had you done the investigation by looking into that alert, you could have prevented other issues which could happen because of that, right? You could have prevented other issues which could occur because of that. But if my approach is proactive, guys, if my approach is proactive, before I get the alert, if I monitor my infrastructure properly, so before the CPU utilization reaches 90%, let's say it is going 80%, 85%. At that point of time, if I go and try to investigate where is the problem, what issue is causing that problem, so maybe I will be able to avoid the CPU utilization reaching 90%. And as a result, I will also avoid the alert being generated. Because guys, when the alert will be generated, it will not only drop in your mailbox, it could go to your manager's mailbox also. And you know how our managers are, right? So if we are proactive in our approach while monitoring the application or while looking into our application health, right, then we will be able to identify the root cause. We'll be able to prevent issues. We'll be able to prevent issues. So guys, in case of monitoring, our approach is reactive, but in case of observability, our approach is proactive and diagnostic. In what answers are we trying to find out, guys? Or what question are we asking? What is wrong, basically? What is wrong means CPU utilization went beyond 90%. Right? CPU utilization went beyond 90%. So that is the wrong thing which has happened. That is the issue which has happened. But I am not trying to find out. Why that alert got raised. But in case you see, guys, in case of observability, I want to basically find out why is it wrong. Means I know that yes, it is wrong. But in addition to that, I'm trying to find out in observability that why is it wrong? Yeah, why is it wrong, guys? So guys, the example for monitoring is basically CPU usage alert. The one which I was explaining you, right? I got an alert that CPU utilization went beyond 90%, for example. But if I go and analyze the traces during that window, I will be able to find out what caused the spike in the CPU utilization. All of you agree with me? Yes or no? So these are the differences basically between monitoring and observability. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, hi Chandra. So actually, I have worked on the observability side. So you mentioned that there are three pillars: metrics, logs, and traces. But I think that is the old concept. Now, actually, we are working on the event side also. So metrics, events, logs, and traces.
So events will be part of this only. Like when there is I'll come to that basically. I have that like as part of metrics. As part of metrics only the event comes. So in case of metrics, we have our resource metrics, we have our client metrics, we have our events. Okay. So as part of metrics only the event comes up.
But metrics basically, yeah, metrics, when metrics basically come from the CPU usage latency or error rates. But events is actually the user interaction. We are triggering the investigation or the correlating issue. So that is the four pillars, I think.
User action is not an event. No, user action is not
User
an event.
interaction. User
Yeah,
interaction.
user interaction is also not an event. User interaction will be part of your traces only. When user is doing any transaction, right? So a request will come to the server. Yes or no? So as part of that, the real user monitoring, which you are mentioning probably. So as part of that, we have the tracing methodology. So as part of traces only, you will be able to know for that particular user action, the request went through which are components basically in the application.
Yeah, but event is, I mean to say that what is the change, state of the change in the system, like such as
Yes,
deployment.
yes, that is event. I agree.
Yeah.
Deployment, code changes, right? Availability, those all are events. But metric is again also a measurement, means metric is also a measurement of an event, guys. Okay. But yes, those the ones which you told, they are definitely events. But primarily our focus is on metrics, logs, and traces. In addition to that, yes, we are now looking into the events also definitely. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. So we'll move on to the next one. So guys, you see, as I told you, monitoring is basically reactive in nature, where we are focusing on alerting and just the overview, guys. Overview of the application, right? We are basically focusing only on the alerting. We are basically focusing only on the overview of the infrastructure. But observability is proactive, where we are definitely looking into the alerting part. We are looking into the overview. We are trying to debug, right? We are trying to debug. We are trying to find out the root cause. We're trying to find out the root cause. Profiling, guys, right? We do profiling also to find out, like for example, there is an expensive SQL, right? Or you are trying to find out how much time it is taking to execute the SQL, or why it is taking longer time. So basically, using the profilers, we do that. Dependency analysis, the dependency of one component on the another, or the dependency between the services, or the dependency between the service and the database, right, guys? So we're trying to find out the dependency analysis. So how the different components are connected to each other, and because of that connectivity, right, how they are dependent on each other. So we are trying to find out the dependency. So you can see, the flow diagram basically, how when a request goes through the different components, right? So how is the flow basically? So that is the dependency basically. Anticipating the future. That is why this is proactive, right? I'm trying to find out what could happen in the future. I'm trying to find out what could happen in the future. So as a result of that, guys, I'll be able to avoid issues in the future. Are you getting me? I'm trying to find out what could happen in the future, so I will be able to avoid the issues in the future. Here, everyone. Yesterday, I think some of you were saying monitoring is proactive, observability is reactive. I don't remember who was saying, but I think some people were saying yesterday, but that is not correct, guys. Okay. So monitoring is reactive, observability is proactive. Okay. Clear?
Chandra, could you please explain that profiling once again? Profiling.
Yeah, profiling. For example, SQL profiling, guys. Okay. Now, when a you are doing some, or the user is doing some transactions, and let's say that transaction involves some SQLs running in the as part of that process, some SQLs will execute. Yes or no? So you might not know when that SQL is being executed, right? Which all components in the application are getting impacted because of that, right? Which all components are getting impacted because of that. But if I use any profiling tool, and I try to basically do any transaction, it can tell, okay, which all SQLs are getting executed as part of that. Similarly, in the observability tools, when I select any particular request which the user has performed, any particular transaction which the user has performed, as part of that transaction, what all are the sequels executed, that I can know. Okay, what all are the sequels executed? In addition to that, how much time each sequel has taken. Are you getting me? So that is basically our profiling. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions, anyone? But remember, guys, observability is proactive, monitoring is reactive. Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. So, guys, in a nutshell, okay, in a nutshell, you can't see something. Let's say, if you can't see something, will you be able to fix that? No, right? Whatever you can't see, you can't fix them. So you cannot fix what you can't see. Yes or no? Can't fix what you can see. So monitoring will tell us, right? Monitoring will tell us whether a system is working or not. Whether a system is working or not. But if it is not working, monitoring doesn't have the answer why it is not working. But by observability, okay, by observability, we'll be able to ask a question why it is not working. Why it is not working, and we'll be able to find out this. Now that is why, guys, can anyone tell me if anyone of you is from performance testing background, guys? Is it in the most of the projects, do you think that in most of the projects the monitoring tools or the observability tools are available, or do you think they are not available? What do you think?
Majority of the project will not have.
Very
Depends.
good. Yeah, majority of the projects, still today, guys, majority of the projects do not have proper monitoring tools, proper observability tools. That is where our role becomes very, very important. We have to educate the customer. Okay, we have to educate the customer why observability tool is very, very necessary. It helps finding the issues faster, right? It helps finding the issues faster. So if my issue is found faster, it can be resolved faster. And because I am also not only finding the issue, I'm also getting the details about the issue. I'm also getting the root cause of the issue. So the dev team or the other, solution architect, the development team, they would have taken good amount of time to do the initial analysis, to find out the root cause, but at least some information will be given by the tool itself, which will be helpful for the development team, and they can move in a particular direction for the analysis. So that definitely saves the time. Yes or no? I'm able to constantly check the health of my application. Before it deteriorates, I can take proactive measures. Here, everyone. Definitely in production, they will have monitoring. Okay. In production, they will have monitoring, but during the testing phase, they do not provide the monitoring tools. Because again, they give the reason that they do not have the budget. Cost is a big challenge for them, right? But yes, wherever possible, guys, please try to educate the customer that why the observability tools are very, very important. Here, I hope you all are at least now convinced that why observability is very, very important. Remember, whenever you do performance testing, or whenever you're planning to do performance testing, please raise it very well in the beginning that you need monitoring tools for your performance testing, guys. Because in today's world, it's not only about the response time, it's not only about the hits, throughput, right? In addition to that, we have other details which we have to check. Okay, so performance testing and your tools, the APM tools or the observability tools, they must go hand in hand. Agree all of you? Or any other thoughts anyone? So we'll move to the next one. Any questions till now? Are all of you clear on the fundamental concept of monitoring, observability? How are they different from each other? Yes or no, everyone? So guys, key takeaways, right? Monitoring means you will check the metrics, whatever has been predefined. So you get the alerts based on your predefined configuration, right? So you'll watch the predefined metrics and then detect the issues, right? But you are not going to find out this root cause and all. But in observability, you have a deep understanding of the system, right or not? You have a deep understanding of the system and root cause analysis. This is very, very important. Many monitoring tools, they are now coming up with the root cause analysis being done by the AI engines, right? Root cause analysis being done by the AI engines, guys. Okay. So by observability, you will be able to understand the system deeper as well as do the root cause analysis of the problems effectively. So if you use them together, so first you will get the metric or get the alert as part of monitoring, and then you will investigate and resolve the issues. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sorry to
monitoring is
interrupt you
basically.
there. Yeah. When you mention that deep system understanding means what? System understanding?
Yeah. Very good question. Let's say I'm only doing the, I'm a user, okay? I'm a user and I'm using the application. I'm doing some transactions. Will I know what all things are happening in the background when I'm using the application, when I'm doing any transaction, where my request is going? Will I be able to know?
Let's say end user will not have that knowledge.
Okay, let's forget about end user. Let's say you're working in a project. Let's say there is a functional tester. Okay, there is a QA tester or the automation tester. Will they have the knowledge, guys? When I'm going to do a particular transaction, which all components are going to be involved in my transaction, which all, which the database, the services, will they be having that knowledge?
It depends, completely depends
Yeah,
on
if
the
someone
project.
is curious, to know, yes, they will have that. But in general, I mean, going by the role, right? Going by the role, they won't
70
have.
to 80% will not have knowledge of that.
Yes, 70 to 80% of the people will not have that knowledge. If someone is very interested to know, to learn and understand, yes, they will have that. I agree, but there are exceptions. But in general, they will not have. Okay, now forget functional testers. Let us come to performance testers, right? Performance tester doesn't have the access to the monitoring, or let's say monitoring is not enabled for the application or test. They're simply they are simply creating the test scripts, developing the test scripts, and executing the tests. Will they be able to know, guys, when this particular user flow is happening? Okay, please note, they don't have access to any observability or monitoring tool. So will they be able to know when the request is going, right? What is happening inside the system, which all components it is interacting with? They might have gone through the architecture diagram. They would have understood it theoretically. Means the solution architect would have told them that this is how the architecture is. And when you do this particular user flow, these are the components where the request will go and you'll get the response. But can they verify that?
No,
Only when they're
Yeah, it totally on assumption. Like based on the architecture, we can assume that
Yes,
this.
based on the architecture, very good. Based on the architecture, I can assume that yes, my request would have gone to these components. But we are testers, for example, let's say we are quality engineers, right? Our job is to verify. We should not believe anything by word of mouth, right? Or by looking at some pictures. I need real-time verification. But now let's say if I have one observability tool deployed on the performance test environment, okay, or let's say deployed on the QA environment. QA environment will not, few people will normally not get that. Let's say to be practical, a monitoring tool is deployed on the performance test environment. So when I do the transactions now, right, or I run my test, will I be able to go and validate in the monitoring tool or the observability tool? Okay. Now, whoever is not aware, guys, how these tools work. So for them, let me explain you that these observability tools, these monitoring tools, they will be able to capture the different requests as well as they will be able to capture the different components of the application through which that request passes. That is what I told you about traces, right? So by the help of the traces, I am able to know about the system, about the application, right? How the components are related to each other, or when a transaction is happening, how different components are involved in it. So now, guys, I have seen the architecture. Now I see the real-time results in the tool. And now I can verify that whatever information the solution architect gave it to me, whether that is correct or not. So I'm actually gaining a more deeper understanding about the system. Did I answer your question? Yes.
Yes, actually, I understood that system understanding is based on the architecture side. That's why I asked.
Yeah, that is on the architecture side, right? How the different components in the backend they will be involved in with each other, right? That is what our architecture is.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Clear, all of you?
I have one question.
Yeah, tell me.
Let's say example, see application build up with many backend systems. It's not like a straightforward, we are sending one request to the web server as a browser to web server, app server and database server. In between many layers will be there. It is going to communicate with the middleware. It is going to communicate with the KICS, like core banking part. Okay. So in that case, if one of the systems like middleware, they are not capable of handling that much load, right? And my productions, its capacity is more than what we have in the UAT QA environment infrastructure. So in that time, how we are going to make the result in such a way to produced in front of management that based on this result, what is going to behave in the production.
Yeah, I understood the question. That is, yeah, I understood the question. It is primarily related to another challenge where we do not get the performance test environment identical to production. Yes or no? We do not get.
Yeah, let's say example, I have very big main door where I can enter 100 people, but inside 100 people going, they have to go in the queue because inside the rooms there's one small rooms are there. That is a middleware. Yeah, some other.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, yes,
are there.
The real middleware. But again, config and you are. But as I understand your question, you are saying that the middleware which is deployed on, let's say, UAT or the pre-prod, right?
Yeah.
That is not similar to the production configuration. Yes or no?
Yes.
So what does that mean? When I say performance test environment means all your components, right, who will talk to each other in that environment, they are also coming under that performance test environment as well, right? So your performance test environment means the environment on which you are supposed to do the performance testing, that is not comparable to production. First thing what you should do is you should go and educate your customer that my performance test environment should be identical to production. then only whatever results I'm going to get during my performance test, that will hold true in production. Are you getting me? You have to clearly,
I agree.
you have
I
to
agree.
clearly communicate this to the customer. But yes, every world is not ideal, right? Every world is not ideal. Will not get the proper environment. So in that case, you have to go for extrapolation. So for extrapolation, there are different techniques which you can follow to do the extrapolation. But again, guys, extrapolation is not foolproof. Okay, extrapolation is not foolproof. But because of the circumstances, we might be required to do the extrapolation. But I'll always suggest that before going for extrapolation, please try to educate the customer and ask for the test environments which are identical to production. Okay. Or else you need to say that for the kind of infrastructure we have in performance test environments, if similar to this we have in production, these results should hold. Or else you can learn the extrapolation techniques and extrapolate your results for your production and share with the customer. But clearly call it out that these are the results which I have got on our performance test environment, and to showcase how it's going to behave in production, we have extrapolated it using mathematical techniques. Understood? Clearly call it out.
Yeah, understood. But it's very challenging to get the environment.
Yeah. Extrapolation is challenging. Extrapolation is challenging, and I told you extrapolation is also not foolproof.
And in
but that is a risk you need to raise.
Correct.
And in that case,
and let's say example, if you are not able to get the environment, in that case, our observability and monitoring always going to stuck in that level where we are not going to further. So that will be in a stop kind of thing.
Definitely from your tool you will be able to know, right, that is becoming the bottleneck.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, no problem. I hope I answered your query. Next we'll go, guys. So as we discussed, observability has 3 pillars. Okay, observability has 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars are metrics, traces, and logs. Metrics means measurement of an event. Measurement of an event. So if your CPU utilization went beyond 60%, CPU utilization went beyond 80%, memory utilization similarly, disk utilization similarly, network utilization similarly, or let's say for God's sake, your response time, right? Your response time, your throughput, your hits per second, right? These all are metrics. These all are metrics. You are measuring something. You are measuring an event, guys, right? You are measuring the event. What was the duration of your request? What was the duration of your response, right? What is the hits per second? So, or what is the number of errors, right? What is the error rate? These all are my metrics. Yes or no? These all are my metrics. Coming to traces, guys, as I told you, whenever a request is sent to the server, through which all components it passes through, right? Or whenever, let's say, because of some input, okay, or because of a transaction taking higher time, or basically the response time is high, it could lead to another problem, or any exception in your application, right? When that request is getting executed, there is some exception thrown in the application because of which the response time becomes high. Yes or no? So one event is leading to another event. So how do you find out the relationship between them? In metrics, you measure only one event, let's say, right? Or you measure different events, but you are not able to correlate them, for example. But how to correlate? How to find out the relationship between those events? That is through the traces, everyone. Okay. You will be able to know when a request is sent, which all are the application components which are involved in serving that request and sending the response, right? Or any particular event giving rise to another event, another issue, right? Those all things you will be able to know with the help of the traces. And then we have the logs, guys. Now, what is logs? Whatever events are happening, if they are not documented, means if they are written to a file and that file is in a human readable format, right? So those things we are calling it as logs. Those things we are calling it as logs. Yes or no, guys? Any error in the application? So in the metric, you will see that these are the number of the errors. But where exactly that error happened, right? How did that error happen? So by looking into the timestamp, if your application has that logging capability, we can go through the logs and you will be able to find out that, okay, this is the problem. So guys, to effectively do the observability or to find out the root cause, it is suggested that you use all three of them together. You use all three of them together, guys. Together means you try to correlate. You try to find out the relationship between all the three things. One is metric, the traces, and the logs. Right? You should be able to find out that relationship, and then only you will be able to conclude and get a bit, the correct root cause, guys. Here, all of you. So that is our. So we have these three pillars of observability. So now, what is metrics? What is metrics? Metrics represent the data in your system, right? The data in your system. So you collect the metrics, you monitor your system, you collect the metrics, and why are we doing the monitoring, guys? We are doing the monitoring to collect data, to collect the metrics, and by looking into those metrics, we will be able to know whether our application performance is in the right direction or it is in the wrong direction. Yes or no? We'll be able to create awareness about the health of the application, about the behavior of the application, about the characteristics of the application, right? Or the different components inside the application. Okay, so metrics is basically the data in our system, guys. Now, the metrics, capture a value related to our system. But guys, this is very, very important, guys. At a specific point in time, at that particular point of time, what was the metric, right? Means, for example, your CPU utilization, it will vary across different times, or the number of users accessing the application in production, that will vary from time to time, right? So the number of users currently logged into a web application, that is basically a metric, right? Number of users. But that is going to differ from time to time. So at that particular point of time, what is the value, guys? At that particular point of time, what is the value? And that is our metric. Are all of you clear? Right? So metrics will be gathered at different frequency levels, right? At different frequency levels, and normally from organization to organization, from teams to teams, from the different teams, they have their different frequency set. Okay, some might collect the data every second, some might collect the data every minute, or let's say at regular intervals, like let's say every 15 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 1 hour, right? So metrics can be collected at different intervals. Okay, and they are basically configured, guys, that at this particular interval I will need this metric. Okay, so that the application, the components, they can be monitored at regular intervals, right? Over the time, they can be monitored at regular intervals. So whatever interval we have set up, whatever frequency we have set up, whether it is in seconds, whether it is in minutes, whether it is in hours, right, or daily, so or day wise, right? So you define that interval. Based on that interval, you will collect the metrics. Now, as I was telling you guys, our metrics are of different types. Our metrics are of different types. The first one is work metrics. Okay, the first one is work metrics. Work metrics or the application metrics. The application is doing the work for us, right? The application metrics. So, what is the throughput? Who can tell me what is throughput, guys? What is throughput? Throughput is basically the output of the system, right? The measurement of the output of the system, the transactions processed per second, the transactions processed per minute, the transactions processed per hour. So they are our throughput. Yes or no, everyone? Similarly, success means how many requests are successful. Error, how many requests errored out, or what is the error rate. Performance of the application, right? These all are my work metrics, guys. These all are my work metrics. Then we have the resource metrics. We have the resource metrics. Resource metrics means the hardware resources, right? The hardware. So work metrics is basically your software, guys. Okay. Resources means our hardware. So we have metrics for our hardware. Utilization, how much is being utilized. So it can be with respect to CPU, it can be with respect to the memory, it can be with respect to the disk, it can be with respect to the network, right? So we have different utilization rates. Then we have the saturation points. Yes or no? We have the saturation points, the threshold, right? We have the threshold. So CPU getting saturated, CPU utilization getting saturated, right? So when let's say you have defined a threshold level, if the CPU goes beyond that point, we can say, let's say it is saturated. Okay, we will not wait for 100%, right? Let's say 99% or 95% you have set up. So you can say it has saturated. Means it has gone to the maximum level, guys, whatever has been configured by us. Okay. Now, if you do not do any configuration, then in that case, CPU saturation means 100% CPU utilization. Right. Similarly, guys, error can happen with respect to the resources also. Error can happen with respect to the resources also. Availability, that is another very important factor, guys, right? Metric, basically. So as part of availability, the organizations normally tend to have an SLA of 99.9% availability. So you will have downtime, right, guys? You will have downtime. So downtime can be planned, downtime can be unplanned. So availability is inversely proportional to your downtime. So if your downtime is high, your availability is less. If your availability is high, your downtime is less. Yes or no, guys? So they are inversely proportional to each other. Availability means what percentage of the time your system is up and running, guys. What percentage of the time your system is up and running. So that is my availability. Then, guys, we have these events like as I think Cruz was highlighting, right? We have events also. Okay. So events can be primarily the deployments, or the code changes, or the alerts generated by the system also, guys. The alerts generated by the system are also events. Clear, everyone? So we have these different types of metrics, that is work metrics, resource metrics, and events. Okay. Clear, everyone? So with this, we come to the end of our presentation, which was on monitoring versus observability. Any questions? Clear? I hope you all got a clear understanding about monitoring, about observability, and the differences between them. Okay. So we'll stop the session for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed today's session. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Chandra, for today's session.